There's a rule in space. Sound doesn't travel in a vacuum. No air, no molecules, no noise. And yet, astronauts heard something. In 1969, Apollo 10 was orbiting the far side of the moon, completely out of contact with Earth. And during that radio silence, they recorded a sound. Not static, not interference. It sounded like music. Even NASA didn't know what to make of it. Was it natural or something else? Tonight, we're diving into the most mysterious, eerie, and real sounds ever recorded in space, and what they might mean. The Apollo 10 mission was the full moon landing test, everything except the landing itself. While looping around the moon, astronauts Eugene Cernan and John Young heard something through their headsets. Cernan said, "It sounds like outer space-type music." Young agreed. "That sure is weird music." And this wasn't a brief blip. The strange, swirling tones went on for nearly an hour. When they returned to Earth, they debated whether to report it, afraid NASA would think they'd lost their minds. NASA eventually labeled it radio interference between the lunar module and the command module. But here's the thing. The moon has no atmosphere, no air, nothing to bounce or distort radio signals. So, where was the music coming from? Fast forward to 1977. NASA launched 2 Voyager probes to explore the outer planets. They passed Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And along the way, they began to hear something. Voyager didn't carry microphones. Instead, its instruments were designed to detect plasma waves, variations in charged particles. NASA scientists converted those wave readings into audio frequencies. And what came out? They didn't sound like static. They sounded alive, like cellos humming in the dark, like alien choirs, like sirens. Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus. Each planet sang its own song, unique, melodic, and terrifying. These weren't musical compositions. They were electric symphonies from magnetic fields and plasma storms. But when you hear them, you can't help but feel like something is speaking. So how does sound exist? Where there's no sound? Here's how. Space is full of plasma, electrically charged gas made of ions and electrons. When this plasma moves through magnetic fields, it creates oscillations, like waves. Voyager's plasma wave subsystem, PWS, measured those oscillations. These are not sound waves. They're electromagnetic waves. But NASA scientists converted their frequency range into audio, the same way a radio converts signal into music. Imagine turning invisible waves into a voice. Auroras on Earth do something similar, creating hiss, crackles, and chirps you can actually hear in certain conditions. It's called electrophonics. So no, these sounds aren't fake, they're real, just not biological. Still, the tone, the pacing, the feeling sound like they're coming from something intelligent. This is where science meets psychology. Humans are wired to interpret patterns, especially in sound. Repetition, harmony, crescendos, all things we associate with life. So when we hear waves that rise and fall, hum like choirs, or pulse like breathing, our brains scream, that means something. We don't just hear space sounds, we feel them. That's why some scientists call it pareidolia of the ear, hearing meaning where there might be none. But what if we're not wrong? What if these sounds are messages? Not just measurements. Could plasma vibrations be more than physics? Could they be signals? Some researchers have proposed that any advanced species might use magnetic waves to communicate across the cosmos, not with words, but with rhythms. Carl Sagan once said, "The universe is not required to be in perfect harmony with human ambition." But maybe it is in harmony, just not in a language we understand yet. So the next time someone tells you space is silent, remember what Apollo heard, what Voyager captured: whispers, choruses, a symphony in the void. Drop a comment, that sounds alive, and subscribe to Beyond Light Years, because this universe, it's not quiet, we're just learning how to listen.